You got to look at the reality of the situation. Like for me, it's not, you kind of got to get over yourself. Like, it's not about you, man. Like, okay, you feel embarrassed. You're not that important. Like, get over yourself.
Yeah, that's where you go.
Get over yourself, right? Like, you're worried about how people may perceive you, and like you're walking around and it's embarrassing because you shot 5 air balls. Get over yourself, right? And then after that, it's okay, well, why did those air balls happen? Got it. High school, year before, we played 35 games, max, right? Week in between, spaced out, plenty of time to rest. In the NBA, it's back to back to back to back to back to back to back. I didn't have the legs. So you look at the shot, every shot was online. Every shot was online, but every shot was short, right? I got to get stronger. I got to train differently. The weight training program that I'm doing, I got to tailor it for an 82-game season so that when the playoffs come around, my legs are stronger and that ball gets there. So I look at it with rationale and say, okay, well, the reason why I shot air balls is because my legs aren't there. I go, well, next year they'll be there. That was it. I mean, since 20 years, it was an everyday process and trying to figure out strengths and weaknesses. For example, jumping ability. Now, my vertical was a 40, it wasn't a 46 or a 45. My hands are big, but they're not massive. Right, so you got to figure out ways to strengthen them so your hands are strong enough to be able to palm a ball and do the things that you need to do. Quickness, I was quick, but not insanely quick. I was fast, but not ridiculously fast. Right, so I had to rely on skill a lot more. I had to rely on angles a lot more. I had to study the game a lot more. And but I enjoyed it though. So like from the time I can remember when I started watching the game, I studied the game, and it just never changed. I don't deal with people that don't commit at that level, but then act as if they do. I don't deal with that. I don't. The game itself it's a complicated answer. So there are very tactical things in terms of footwork and geometry of the court. So you're looking at the court and looking at the 45-degree angles that the court is shaped in and how it needs to operate. That's one component to it. So looking at spots on the floor where you can increase your efficiency, right? You can be on the wing, but there's a certain spot on the wing that improves your angle to drive to the basket, right? So that sort of stuff. Footwork of the opposition, looking at the emotion of the opposition, their tendencies, their weaknesses, and all that stuff. Understanding the momentum of the game, how to create momentum shifts, where momentum shifts come from, all this sort of stuff. And then studying outside of that, right? Looking at different industries, looking at conductors, looking at writers, looking at actors and how they get into character, and then how do they keep themselves in that mental space. So looking at different industries, looking at nature itself and learning from that and how you can incorporate that into the game. Man, there's a lot of studying, pre-work, and understanding what their defensive packages and how to put teammates in certain situations. So for example, if you look at players nowadays that are charged with taking game-winning shots, making game-winning decisions. And you look at the play and then you look at it and say, okay, well, that shooter was there, the double team came, and the player couldn't do anything but pass the ball. Well, that's because they didn't do the pre-work, right? So when you do the pre-work, you understand, okay, this team in this situation likes to run a double team from this particular angle. All right, so I'm gonna clear that side out, force the double team to come from a different angle, move myself to a space on the floor where it's going to take a long time for the double team to come, and now I can circumvent the double team and get to a place on the floor where I can knock down a shot to get to the basket. So it's all that pre-work. You can't say, I'm too tired, I'm going to lay down. That's not fair. She don't know what the hell's going on. And if this was a game, you'd suck it up and play. I played games with the flu. I played games with 102-degree fever, man.
Powerful.
You can't do that.
That is so powerful,
right?
Man.
You got to be on, man.
That's big.
No sleep. Zero sleep. Zero sleep. It's like, health situation or what have you, and you're staying up all night, and then you got to go out and perform because fans don't know, teammates don't know, nor do they care, nor should they, that you've been up all night. You got to perform. You just got to go to work, man. I bought into it. I bought into the meditation. I bought into the deeper connection that exists within the game. And so when you watch our teams, or you watch any of Phil's teams, or Chicago teams, Game 6 against Utah, you watch our games, Game 7 against Boston, we were never rattled, ever, because we're always in the moment, always in the present, always extremely calm, always looking at the reality of the situation and not letting our emotions cloud our execution. And that comes from being in that meditative state that he would teach and preach from day one. You have a hamstring injury, you pull your hamstring really, really badly, you can barely walk, let alone play anything. Doctor tells you go home, sit up on the couch, rest your hammy, right? Stay off of it, don't get up, no sudden movements. You're at home, all of a sudden a fire breaks out in the home. Your kids are upstairs, wife is wherever she may be, this shit's going down. I'm willing to bet that you're gonna forget about your hamstring, you're gonna sprint upstairs, you're gonna grab your kids, make sure your wife's good, you're getting out of that house, right? Hamstring be damned. You're not gonna feel your hamstring, right? And the reason is because the lives of your family are more important than the injury of your hamstring. And so when the game is more important than the injury itself, you don't feel that damn injury. Not at that time. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. There's so many factors. There's the surgery that has to take place. The surgery has to go well, right? And then it's a tendon. I'm not dealing with anything that's muscular or things that I can control. I can't control a tendon. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. And then thinking about what that process of recovery is going to look like. It's a long one. Do I want to do that shit? I don't know if I want to do it. I don't know. So that was the hardest part. When I went in the trainer's room, my kids are in there, and they're looking at you and stuff, and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, it's all right. Dad's gonna be all right. It'll be fine. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. As a parent, you gotta set the example. You gotta set the example. This is another obstacle. This obstacle cannot define me. It's not gonna cripple me. It's not gonna be responsible for me stepping away for the game that I love. I'm gonna step away on my own terms. And that's when the decision was made that, what? I'm doing it. Emotionally, to be able to put myself in a place where at practice or when I'm training or during games, I switch my mind to something else. I switch my mode into something else, right? For me, it's the equivalent of Maximus Decimus Meridius in Gladiator picking up the dirt, smelling the dirt. It's go time, right? So that was my mental switch. It was like an actor getting ready for a film. You got to put yourself in that cage. When you're in that cage, you are that character. And then when you leave there, it's something completely different. But when I'm in that cage, bro, don't fucking touch me. Don't talk to me. Just leave me alone. During that year, everybody kept coming up to me and saying, okay, you're going to have stages of grief when you retire. You're going to go into a state of depression when you retire. And and then my competitiveness inside was like, no, I'm gonna do something in the next 20 years that is better than these last 20. You might not understand that. I'm doing that, So the competitiveness kicks in.